Hey everybody, Andrew Loberg here. We are fishing out here on Lake Guntersville and it is officially springtime. Trees are blooming, fish are wanting to move shallow. You know, I had a little bit of a game plan going out today. I really wanted to move a ton of water, fish some new areas I haven't fished in a long time, and just kind of expand and explore on what the springtime has to offer. Spring can be a little bit tricky, but it can also be some of your best memories out on the water. You have fish that are coming from the deeper parts of the lake, moving up shallow. The water temperature is slowly starting to warm up from the mid 50s to the lower 60s. And when that starts to happen, these big fish are thinking about spawning. Now, before a lot of these fish start to spawn, I like to use a lot of moving baits. Since the water is starting to slowly warm up, their metabolism is starting to go a little bit faster, where they're gonna be wanting to feed a little bit more. And this morning, I tied on my 3 go-to baits, as you've seen in multiple videos of mine. The first is gonna be a 1.5. It's your basic 1.5. This is the DRS, this is a rattling version. In the springtime, 1.5 mimics many types of bait fish. Granted, this is a shad colored crankbait, so it mimics a lot of shad. There are some fish that have spawned, so baby bass, small bluegill. A lot of these smaller profile bait fish have that white kind of tone to them. I love to go with a smaller 1.5 to mimic all sorts of things. Another staple in the springtime that's a must is a jerkbait. Lucky Craft offers numerous amounts of jerkbaits in today's age with a lot of different colors. I like to keep it basic. I love the slender pointer. The slender pointer is by far one of my favorites to fish in the springtime. You can get it down if you need to. On lighter line, you can get it down to that 6 to 8 foot range, but you can also keep it up. And a lot of times with these fish wanting to move shallow, I like to fish in that 3 to 6 foot range, and this is the perfect profile to do so and has the perfect depth. As we get into the water warming and the water cleaning up, by far my favorite color is Ghost Minnow. Ghost Minnow is a little bit translucent, but has that blue and dark brown hue on top. It just gets bit all over the country. Fish from California all the way out to Alabama, it gets bit. And last but not least, the third bait I had tied on, which did the most of the damage today, this is the RTO 120. Out here on Guntersville, we have a lot of vegetation and a lot of shallow vegetation. When it comes to rattle baits, the 2 that I like are the RTO and the LV series. The LV series to me is for fishing a little bit deeper grass and deeper rock, but this RTO has a little bit wider profile and it comes through grass a little bit easier. You can snap it through and it stays up higher in the water column. That is the reason why I picked the RTO for today, was because during the springtime, like it is right now, the fish are moving a little bit shallow, got a lot of vegetation, and this bait gets through the vegetation very, very effectively. So as I started the day today, I noticed the wind started really picking up. The water was in the high 50s. With the wind picking up, it led me to only one option for today, was to throw this rattle trap. This rattle trap in the wind, the heavy wind, as you see in these videos, is I could cast it a long, long ways. I'm throwing this on 17-pound line, heavy line, got a full spool, and I could really fire that thing into the wind, and I can feel my bait at the end of the cast. Compared to the jerkbait, with that much wind, man, it's just hard to make a long cast and fish it effectively. So I just picked up the trap and started covering water. The first color that I had tied on today was the BP Shiner. In the heavier wind and a little bit of stain, the BP Shiner is a great, great color. It's got that nice little flash to it. It's got a dark top on it. I've caught a lot of big ones on it in the springtime. But as I was throwing it, I noticed the water in the lake, with all the vegetation it has, the water was a little bit clean and I wasn't getting bit. I went to a handful of spots and just was not getting bites. And I knew there were some fish around and you could see some bait activity going on, but I just was not getting bit. So I went down and tied on the Ghost Minnow RTO, and within the first 5 casts, I caught a nice one. These subtle changes, going from a really bright, noisy chrome style trap to a Ghost Minnow that's a little bit more translucent, even in the heavier winds, makes a huge difference. You want to match the hatch and you want to make sure you're getting that bait in front of them. And if it's too much noise in their face with the color, a lot of times they won't eat it. So if you can get something that matches their profile, matches the watercolor, they'll start eating it. And as you see in the video, caught a few nice ones and they had it choked, and all the fish that I caught today had it down to their crushers and they loved it. Since the water is warming up and we are getting closer in the springtime and moving away from the winter months, I tend to shy away from the crawl colors, like the teal crawl or spring crawl. Those are great staples in the winter, early spring, when the water's so cold and that water's dirty. But you know, when we get into the spring and the fish are starting to move shallow, that's when you start seeing a lot of the bait move up in the water column. They get out of the main river, they get off those main points, and they get up in the shallows, and that's where you get a lot of the bait. And that ghost minnow, the BP shiner, depending on the water color, like I said, that's the way to go. And the only reason I'm really throwing a trap, like I said, was because of the wind. If that wind dies down, go with the jerkbait. Slender pointer 112 like this one. You can go with the slender pointer 97. You want to match the hatch and kind of just focus on the areas that you're in and the bodies of water that you're fishing. You know, this lake, Gunnersville, it's got a lot of big bait fish, gizzard, shad, big shiners, things like that. So that 112 profile fits it. But if you got a lot of little minnows and little silver side shad, the 97, the pointer 100, things like that, match it perfectly. But my all-around go-to color and that jerkbait is going to be that ghost minnow all around. Water's clearing up around the country, and that ghost minnow is just a really good color. Today we are focusing on this area. This is where I caught those fish. As you can see with my trails, I was fishing this grass line that was up here on this flat. Right back in here, we have deeper water, and up here, as the contours show, is flatter and shallower water. So a lot of times, going into the springtime, these fish will like to come from the deep water up into the shallow water, and that is a great transition. Along with this transition right here, we have a spawning day right in here. So these fish will want to come out of the main river, go to a secondary staging spot, and then eventually move back here and spawn. Now the water's in the low 60s, so some of these fish are kind of trafficking back and forth here. But with the high wind that we had today with the rattle trap, RTO 120, I was able to get some bites along that ridge with the grass. I saw a lot of bait activity and things like that to make them react. RTO just changed up color. How you want me to eat it?